Hello, I'm Ron Fox for Get Woodworking, and we're going to carry on talking about routers and some of the things you can do with them. Well, while the glue is drying, let's turn to one that is finished. See, this is exactly the same idea. I made this one for a 17mm guide bush, and you notice there's a line there which I've inked in with a black ballpoint. What we do in order to position this, when we mark the line of our cut, we mark the center line. So before we use this, the final stage is to take our guide bush, put it in the router, put the widest cutter in to put a notch in that will go at least as thick as we're likely to want to go with our slots. Then take our little V grooving cutter, which will be found in every set of cutters, or any other pointed cutter that we've got, and with the guide bush in, run a scratch or a little V down the middle, colour it in to make it conspicuous. And now what we're going to do, going back to the earlier job, which was to make a simple hinge jig, there are two lines marked so that we can cut a slot and then counter slot it so that it will look like this, a slot and a counter slot, so that we can put the batten on here to make that jig adjustable for different widths of door. So now here we go, actually using this to cut a slot and then to counter slot it to recess the head of the fixing screw or the bolt. Here is the one made for the smaller guide bush. This has got the glue set and we've put the center line in. Here is the hinge jig we were making earlier. We've cut the aperture for the actual hinge recess. Now we want to slot and counter slot down those lines, remembering that we marked the center line of the slot. There's the jig. There is our slotting device. You can see that if I put it like that, I can center that black line in the jig on the line that we want the cut to go on. I then clamp it to the table. If you're working right near the end of this side of the jig, you can always pack it with a piece of the same thickness material so that your clamp will come down on something firm. This applies to all sorts of clamping jobs, as most of you will know. When you're making one of these, do keep in mind which model router you're making it for. We're all right with this one because that runs straight up and down between those clamps, but if it was a much bigger base, we would need our jig to be a bit wider or to spread out at the base so that we could clamp it and still leave room for our router to go through. Now I'm going to go through in several light cuts. I am going to work on pencil marks. You can put little blocks with double-sided tape to limit your stop if you like. I find pencil marks are usually enough. So I've got my guide bush in, I've got my cutter in. Remember the router is sitting on top of this, so we've got an extra deep plunge. As usual with a straight cutter, we plunge to the surface of the work. We set our stop bar to give us a few millimeters cut. We give our stop bar, we can set it by eye because we're just doing a couple of millimeters, and we're ready to go. Switch on, let the router reach running speed. plunge. See what we've done. That was our first pass. To set the depth of cut for the second pass, we plunge our cutter to the bottom of the groove we've just cut, which brings our stop bar on top of the screw. Loosen it, lift it again a few millimeters just by eye. Raise it, switch on, plunge. Back on our pencil mark. Finish the cut, lift the router off. We're getting there. We need to go a couple of millimeters deeper. So for our third pass, again plunge the cutter to the bottom of the groove we've already cut, lock it, raise the stop bar a couple of millimeters. Raise the router, switch on before we plunge. Away we go.